Welcome back to the Mastering Real Estate podcast. This is episode 28, and today we are interviewing Ashley Wilson. You might remember her name from episode 23 when I reviewed her book, The Only Woman in the Room, which was fantastic. Ashley Wilson is truly a badass in the real estate space, and I can't wait for you to hear what she has to say. Welcome to the Mastering Real Estate podcast. This podcast is for real estate investors and professionals looking to take their real estate game to the next level. Each week, I review the industry's leading real estate books and break down the main lessons that you can apply to your life and business. Then, every other week, I review my own personal lessons learned from flipping over 100 houses and being a full-time real estate investor since 2018. Stay tuned each week so that we can all become masters of real estate together. I'm your host, Maura McGraw. I've been a full-time real estate investor since 2018. I've managed over 100 flips, founded and grew a real estate investment firm, and I'm a licensed agent in the state of Alabama. And I live and work in the real estate industry every day. Before we dive into the interview, let's learn a little bit about Ashley Wilson. Ashley Wilson is also known as Badash Investor, and she is a dynamic figure in real estate with over a decade of experience in the industry. Based in Pennsylvania, she co-founded House It Look LLC, which specializes in high-end house flipping, and BarDown Investments, which focuses on large multifamily properties nationwide. Additionally, Ashley co-founded Conference Connect and Apartment Addicts, which are platforms for conference discovery and multifamily coaching, respectively. Wilson is a best-selling author and has been featured in Business Insider. She holds a master's degree in leadership development from Penn State University. And outside of work, she enjoys spending time with her family and riding horses. Her journey from the pharmaceutical industry to real estate prominence reflects her broad skill set, entrepreneurial spirit, and commitment to empowering others in the industry. Unfortunately, during recording, we did experience a few audio and connection issues, so some of Ashley's valuable insights got cut short. But hopefully we were still able to salvage a lot of the great content for you guys and put together a great interview. Awesome. Ashley Wilson, thank you so much for coming on the Mastering Real Estate podcast. I am so happy to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me.
As you may have heard, we did a recent review of your book, which I'm a huge fan of. But before we dive into the book and everything that you have going on, I would love to learn a little bit about your background, how you found yourself in real estate investing. Can you tell us maybe a little bit about how you grew up and how you found yourself in the world of real estate investing?
So it's quite perfect how it all came to be when you look at how my life transitioned. But I started really in real estate, getting exposed to real estate through my father. So my dad's a giant leading operations. And what ended up happening is because my dad was in construction and he did everything from single family to commercial, but it really ebbed and flowed with market cycles. And then my mom worked in a high-end auto body repair shop. So people would tend to get their cars fixed and modified whenever there was a really strong market. But then if they would get in accidents in a downturn of a market, the business would slow down. So I saw that firsthand, how our family was impacted with market cycles. And I knew that I wanted to do something where I felt ultimately I just wanted a lot of money and secure my financial future. So I worked in clinical research and development, and I got a really good grip on how to manage from afar, long distance management, operation. And then later on, my now husband introduced me to real estate as an alternative instead of the stock market for a lot of reasons. But we eventually started with our first investment, which was a combination of house hacking and Airbnb. And then that was in 2009. Other long-term rentals. In 2014, I started a high-end flipping business with my father, which married perfectly. And then in 2017 and 18, I started to have an interest for commercial real estate, eventually starting BarDown Investments in 2018. And that's what I do today. And started partnering with him. And we also opened a coaching program called Conference Connect, which is an online conference database and speaker database across the entire US, where you can look up conferences, review them, review speakers, discover new conferences, discover new speakers. So that is what we're doing today.
That is amazing, but also insane. I would love to hear how you balance all of that, because you're doing all of this, but you are also a mother and hopefully have time for a personal life every once in a while. So, how do you balance all of these different things you have going on?
I have a really incredible husband, and he is so supportive, and he works in the business, but also manages our daughter's lifestyle, like their whole schedule. So it's really nice and empowering, and it's incredible to see my husband take on a non-traditional male role, I guess you would say. I think it's more common for the wife to be the homemaker, but my husband loves doing it and he's incredible at it. I think he's better than I am at it. And he is a champion for me. He's my number one cheerleader. So I really have a lot of gratitude towards what my husband and I do as a team. It's a team effort. That is number one. Number two is my partner, Jay. Jay is incredible. He is everything that I'm not, which makes him the best partner you can partner with. But at the same time, we have the same ethics and morals. Our family life is very similar in the sense of how we raise our family and the support system. And then we have incredible team. I think that's the secret sauce on anything you do in life. If you want to have fun and be successful, those are the two things that are the cornerstones behind that success.
Can you talk a little bit about how becoming a mom, how that impacted or changed how you approached business in any way?
In the traditional sense, because of the fact that my husband was so involved and he's always been involved, a parent should do in terms of being a parent to the child, whether it's male or female, raise our kids and be there for our kids, regardless of whether I'm the one who's present or he's the one who's present. They don't have a difference in the sense of support. It's one of the reasons that I wrote the book. It's one of the reasons why a champion for women. It's one of the reasons that I distinguish myself in commercial construction for the real estate businesses. And it's one of the reasons why I started Conference Connect, is because just like the book where I saw women were originally was a conference discovery platform, but we took it the next step, not only with women, but all different minorities, whether it be sexual orientation, political view. It's really important that everyone have a voice. That's something that I think always thought as I went to schools where often the women to hear my daughters say, "Oh, mommy's always working." And I know they probably say that in a negative way, but I actually wear that with it for me personally, but also as a society. I think we're really changing the dynamics of women in traditionally male dominated fields.
I totally agree. Can you tell the story or how you came up with the idea to write your book, The Only Woman in the Room?
Absolutely. I was at a conference in Philadelphia, and the co-founders of the real estate investor community, Liz Fair, and there were 450 people in attendance. And if I remember correctly, we squeezed just two tables together and 16 of us sat together. And I looked around the room, and I think that has been the biggest aha moment of my entire life, because I went to high school at a school that went co-ed my sophomore year. So it was all boys. It was over 3 to 1, boys to girls. I didn't notice it then. My senior year of college, I lived with all boys
Wow.
and myself, and I didn't notice it then. I worked in real estate, which is traditionally all men. I had always been surrounded enough, and I remember the car ride home because my husband also attended the conference and we were talking, and I said, I'm going to write a book. It's going to be called The Only Woman in the Room, having a completely different approach on how to write the book. But then I started to brainstorm about the book, and I thought to myself, why are there no women on the main stage? And I found that every time there was a keynote speaker, they had a book attached to their name. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could bring in a bunch of women into a book that then inspire? How many women would then have a female role model to look up to and say, oh, if she can do it, I can do it too? Selfishly, I was also inspired by my daughters, to come full circle to questions you've asked previously, which was to say, okay, my daughters can look up at some point. They're not going to look up to me during their teenage years, I'm sure of it, but they can look up to these other women and say, my mom's not the only one doing this and being different. She's in this cool group of women. So it was really important to me to find women who were willing to be authentic, transparent about how they found their success. It wasn't for me about differentiating between being a man and a woman. That was never what it was about. In fact, I think there's two mentions of how are you able to find success. And I wanted to make sure that anyone who picked up the book, whether it was a man or a woman, could relate to at least one person. So it was really important for me to find people who represented as much doing women. No one knew I was interviewing them. So I interviewed women for a year to get to know them. And then once I felt confident that they were a right fit, still this day, I'm sure don't know that's what I was doing while I was asking all these questions about their story, but that was the intention behind it.
That is such a cool approach to write, and not one that I've heard. I've never heard anyone else take that same approach to writing a book like this. Very cool. Have you noticed anything change in the industry since writing your book?
Yes, there are more women on stages, in fields, not just real estate, but finance, especially technology. We're starting to see a lot of change across traditionally male dominated industries. I don't know if that's necessarily a reflection of the book, from the book for the women authors, myself included. I also think that in terms of partnerships, there have been more partnerships between, starting to see a change. There's more people, more women coming into commercial real estate, specifically multifamily, which is what more women who are coming in. There's a lot of women who've been in this industry for a long time, but they just didn't have a voice before, and they didn't have an opportunity to use, not necessarily they didn't have a voice. I think there's more option of real estate and finance, because if you look at it just from a very simplistic standpoint and you look at the trend, the amount of women coming into real estate and the women coming into finance and tech industry from a statistical point of view is rising in comparison. You know, you're seeing this trend, and naturally it has to equate to 100%. The only group that's growing are women. So I think we should be in really helping them secure their financial future, because let's face it, women outlive men in life. So it's not a burden just for women, but for anyone who knows a woman, which could be your mom, your sister, a friend, a cousin, a colleague, a coworker.
Absolutely. So based on writing this book, but also your own experience, because you've been in business for a long time and you've also worked with so many other successful entrepreneurs, have you noticed any common trends among successful real estate investors or entrepreneurs that you've worked with over the years?
They're incredibly driven and they don't follow the crowd. Anyone who's successful is someone who does something really well and they're absolutely committed to it. They've had to sacrifice a family lifestyle, but they did it because they believed so much in the future and the potential of what they could achieve than where they were at currently. They were not happy with the status quo, and they were willing and did whatever it took to persevere and get to that. It's because prior to being in these circles, fitting in with the groups that I was with and feeling like of entrepreneurs, that guilt of sharing something you're doing well just evaporates. You actually want to hear all the successes that other people are doing because it helps you have success and you learn from other people's successes instead of feeling like you can't talk about these successes. I was able to save $1 million in taxes last year. And if you're around folks that aren't in that type of environment where that's commonplace, that might come across as offensive. But if you're in the group that you should be with, the follow-up question is, how do I save $1 million in taxes? And my next goal is how to donate $1 million. That's like just getting in those circles of folks that really don't ever look at things as a threat, but it's like, how do we lift each other up?
Absolutely. What advice would you give to maybe women who are newly entering the world of real estate investing?
That's a great question. So, there's a lot of things you can do. I really think it depends on your mindset. So, if you're someone who needs support, an accountability partner that makes sure that you show up and take action, if you're someone who doesn't need that support and you're ready to go, then maybe it's just a matter of staying focused and figuring out the path and not being swayed by shiny object syndrome, because entrepreneurs all have shiny object syndrome. That's how we become entrepreneurs. So our greatest strength is our biggest weakness, is to know yourself to a really high level. So that involves a lot of just financial aptitude, to your mindset, to your personality type, really all spectrums of knowing yourself very well and then doubling down on your strengths. And that's the fastest way that you can grow.
Awesome. Can you talk a little bit more about shiny object syndrome and how you've balanced that in your career? Because obviously you've succeeded in so many different things. So you must be a person that has a lot of ideas. But I know that a lot of us do struggle with, like, how do I balance having all the ideas with trying to stay focused and do things well?
It's a daily struggle for me. It is a weakness I have, but sometimes where I struggle is tying the good from the great. And the great trust at least 99 times to getting through is really important. To me, that person's my husband. So it doesn't have to be your husband, it doesn't have to be your spouse, but it has to be someone that if you're naturally a visionary. So if you've read the book Traction, there's visionary, an integrator who is an integrator, but can see a little bit of the visionary side of things to understand your perspective. So it's not of the market at play. Hopefully that person says no a lot. And if they say no a lot, then when they say yes, it means a lot. And that is Conference Connect, because I can tell you, I probably came up with 1,000 ideas before Conference Connect. And my husband was the one that, in addition to him saying no all the time, I vet out something to him and I hadn't. We were laying in bed. It was like 1:30 in the morning. And I was looking up a conference that I had heard of, and it was really expensive to attend, but I didn't know anything about this conference. And I said to myself, oh, wouldn't it be cool if there was some sort of review platform? So I knew whether out loud to him. And he was like, that's actually a really good idea, but I'm sure that there's already millions of sites out there. And there weren't. And I was like, I just spent the last hour looking and there aren't. And he was like, really? So then the next day he spent a couple hours looking, and then he came back to me and was like, I think this is a really good idea and I think you should pursue it. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm not, like, I was put off guard and I was like, I don't know. I got to vet this. So it took him a couple days to convince me to move forward, which is completely out of the ordinary for us. So that's to show you how many times he says no to me, to the point where when he says yes, I'm now doubting myself and the idea. So that's where I think you need someone to balance your good from great ideas.
Awesome. That is awesome. That's such a great partner to have. I struggle with the same thing. So that is really good advice. What are you working on right now that most excites you?
Excited about the apartments that we have. Things in the apartment industry aren't great as a whole. They're definitely challenging right now, but I think the people who did their homework are sitting a lot prettier than the people who relied on the cap rate and interest rates to carry them through. And fortunately, we did not. So and I'm also really excited about Conference Connect. I'm really excited about it because I think it has the ability to have a major impact on the industry. So it's not just related. Conference Connect doesn't just talk about real estate conferences, it's all conferences. And I think there's a lot of opportunity when you give someone a voice. And I think that brings more people into the industry that learn about the industry and realize that something is possible for them too. So that really excites me because I just think opportunity, especially being a visionary, is really cool to witness.
Yes, that is so cool. What are some of your favorite resources? Either your favorite books, podcasts, movies, whatever. Any favorite things that you're consuming right now?
I will give a shout out to Drunk Real Estate. So Drunk Real Estate, AJ Osborne and Mauricio Rold, who is a syndications attorney. They put on the podcast and it's very entertaining. I really like that podcast. It's modeled after the All In podcast. I love all different types of books. I like to read business books to like a murder mystery to something out for my business, which people might say, how do you take something murder mystery out for your business? What are you going to do, a hit on someone? And no, but there'll be some sort of creative thing that comes up in the book. And I'm like, wow, I never thought about it that way. I wonder if we could implement that in our business. So I just like reading books from different perspectives. It's the same reason why I like attending meetups when there's a rookie talking. I love hearing a rookie's perspective because to see and hear new ideas and thoughts, I think that's what ultimately breeds innovation in any industry. So I sometimes think it's great to hear very experienced people speak and as much, if not more value to add just by the way they look at things.
So true. If you ever have any free time, what do you love to do outside of work?
I love obviously spending time with my girls, and I also love riding horses. So I show horses, I show in the hunter jumpers. I have another business where I import horses, train them, and sell them. That's my side.
It's like flipping horses instead of houses.
Yeah, no, it's exactly. I've actually a few people have said that to me, and I thought, oh, yeah, that actually makes sense. That's been fun and gives a little purpose behind what I'm doing as well. So to see the horses progress and improve. So I really just I feel like at the end of the day, I like helping people. So I like helping the kids build Legos. I like helping in our coaching community, Apartment Addicts, helping students realize their dreams. I like helping investors realize profits. I like helping people have a voice for conferences. It really comes down to just helping people. And I think when you help people, it's rewarding in and of itself. But to be able to make a business out of it is pretty cool as well.
And could we possibly do a book giveaway for our audience? We could do
Yeah,
like on YouTube, maybe pick someone who comments and maybe give away a copy of your book.
absolutely. That sounds great.
Awesome. Love talking with you. I've loved reading your book. And I just thank you so much for taking your time to come on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you again, Ashley, for coming on the podcast. Again, I'm so sorry for the recording issues, but I think this still turned out to be a great episode. And thank you so much to you for listening to the podcast. This podcast is made possible by Doratus Properties. Doratus is a real estate investment firm in Alabama. And if you are a real estate professional located in or around Birmingham, Mobile, or Baldwin County, we would love to connect with you. Despite the crazy interest rates and the market, we are always looking for properties to buy, and we always want to expand our network of business partners. So you can shoot me an email at maura@doratusproperties.com or fill out any of the forms on our website so that we can connect. Right now, we are actively seeking more properties to flip and add to our rental portfolios, so make sure to keep us in mind. This concludes today's episode. Thanks so much for listening. Stay tuned next week for our interview with Chris Prefontaine, who is a creative financing genius. You do not want to miss this one. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast and leave us a rating and review. We are a new and growing podcast, so every rating, review, and share helps immensely. Also, make sure that you're following us on YouTube and social media. You'll get a lot more behind the scenes and content there daily. See you in the next one.